All right, let's get started. So you need 2 pieces of cardstock 9x9 to wrap your chipboard. You need another piece 9 by 5.5 to wrap the spine, and then a piece 6 7/8 by 6 that will be our cover on the inside. Chipboard, you need 1 piece 2.5 by 7 for the spine, and then 2 pieces 7 by 7. So I'm going to start with my spine piece, and we're going to put that in here. And on the spine, we want a 1-inch border at the top and bottom, and we want 1.5 on each side. That just gives it a little more space when we go to attach it for it to grip on to grip our covers. Okay, so there's that one. I'm going to trade this one out for my other 1-inch. We'll go ahead and get these down. And again, we're just using those as guides to get that down. If you don't have guides, or I'm sorry, you don't have chipboard scraps that you want to use as guides, you can literally just line this up in here and use the measurements on your scoreboard to kind of eyeball it. That works too, because I know when I taught my project for our St. Louis retreat here a couple of weeks ago, I didn't have my little guide pieces, so that's how we did it, and it won't be as straight. At least if you're me, it won't be as straight, but once you wrap it, it literally will not matter. Okay, move that out of the way and get my quarter-inch score tape ready, and we're going to go ahead and fold. I'm going to go ahead and do that with both of my cover pieces. And then we're going to go ahead and fold with our spine as well. And literally all I'm doing is using that chipboard to bend that cardstock over where I want it to go. All right, so we're going to start with our spine. You now have your rectangle in there. We're going to cut the triangle off. Okay. Once you do, this is what you're going to have. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do score tape and score tape. And if it's not exact, that's fine. We can trim it off the edges. Okay. See, I've got it hanging out over there. All I have to do is come in here and just snip that off. Well, maybe I am. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off my score tape. Okay, I'm just going to put my glue down. And I'm going to use my bone folder to push that chipboard, that cardstock up along the edge of that chipboard, and then fold it over and down and burnish it down. And got a little bit of glue leaking out over there, so we'll just go ahead and clean that up. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, up and over, burnish it down. And then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to go ahead and work along that crease and push this down and out. Okay. Now, if you have, when you look at this edge, if you have a little bump that comes out with the chipboard, or I'm sorry, where the cardstock folded, I'm just going to come in here, put my scissors against the side of the chipboard, and just miter. Okay. All right. Excuse me. Okay, so for the cover pieces, instead of doing the triangle, we're going to do the square. Okay. I'm going to do that on both pieces. Okay. I'm going to go around with my score tape. And I'm going to go ahead and do it on both pieces just so I'm not, I don't know, I call it assembly line crafting. And it, you know, I came up with that just from, you know, doing card swaps where I've done a whole bunch of the same thing over and over and over, and it just moves so much faster and so much easier if you do everything like all of one step at a time. So if I were making, for example, 35 cards and I have, you know, 35 card bases I need to score, I'm not going to score one card base and then make the card and then come back and score the second card base and then make the card. I'm going to score every one of those card bases at the same time. And that's kind of what I do with this. So that I'm not having to come back, you know, tape around one, assemble one, get the tape back out, tape around the other one, assemble the other one. Which, granted, it's 2 pieces. It's not a big deal. Just in my mind, it just makes more sense to do all of one step at a time. Same reason I typically will go through, when I'm going through the pages and whatnot, and score everything all at once. Okay, so we're going to come through here. We're just going to miter any corners that are hanging out more than they should. Shouldn't be too bad. Okay. Do that on both pieces. This way you make sure that you have nice clean corners. Like I know this one's gonna. So when you get everything folded over, you have a nice clean edge. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get the backing off of all of my score tape on all 4 sides. What did I do? Just take like a chunk of that? Something, I don't know. And then we're basically going to do the same thing. I'm going to come along the edge of the chipboard with my glue. And then I'm just going to squiggle inside. And then push that up and over and burnish it down. Turn it all the way around. Same thing on the opposite side. Burnish up, over and down. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other piece. Well, okay, there we go. All right, come on. This tip is just bound and determined to not want to work today. Up and over. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, so we've got our two covers. We're going to get our spine piece again, and we are going to get some score tape along this outside edge. Up near the chipboard, you want to stay about 1/8 of an inch away. You don't want it to go completely up to the chipboard because then it's gonna show when the book is closed. Okay. So see, once that's bent, there's just that little sliver of it that's not covered. That's what you want. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is on one side only, I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of my score tape, if it wants to cooperate. Oh, I know I've got to go wash this one out. I have to take it apart and clean it out here in a minute because I am about over fighting with it. Okay, and then I like to do this. I use my finger to hold this even with the top. I can see that I'm even at the bottom. And then I just pull this across until I feel it drop off the edge of that chipboard. Then I know I am down in the right place. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I think I'm in the right place. Yeah, I'm good. It didn't feel right for some reason after I got it down. I was like, did it slide? Because that'd be about par for the course today. Nearly missed dumping coffee all over my work computer this morning, so I would not be surprised if this slid. Okay, and again I'm just going to use my finger as a guide. Keep forgetting this. So I have carpal tunnel, not like bad enough for surgery, but it gets aggravated every now and then. And I was hoping the compression glove would kind of help, because when I do the covers, even though these are 1,000 times easier and they do not hurt my hands like the old style did, it does still kind of bug my hand. So we'll see. I think I needed to go down one size on the gloves. I was afraid of them running small, and I think I probably would have been okay. All right, so there we go. Now you've got your piece that is the 6 7/8 by 6. That's just going to come in here and just reinforce and hide that center part. And so this one, I was using up scraps of score tape sheets. So, yeah, it's really like completely pieced together on here. So this will take just a second. Here we go. I'm just going to center that up, top to bottom. And I use the score tape on that instead of glue for a couple of reasons. The main one being it goes right down, it's not going to bubble, and then it adheres really, really well. Okay, so I'm going to bend and burnish in that crease. And this is where, using the score tape, it's not going to bubble in here at all. Okay, you use glue like I've had to do a couple of times. It's a little bit trickier to get it lined up I'm not lined up, get it down so that it doesn't bubble and it doesn't pull up in places. Okay. All right. So there is our cover. I am going to take a quick break and fix my glue. I'll be right back. All right, so let's start on our hinge. Before we start scoring this, however, I need to do one thing. I need you to 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom, we're going to draw a line. Okay. Double check your line to make sure you have 4.5 inches in between, and we're good. Okay. So you're going to draw a line 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom. Now, we're going to score every 1/2 inch until we get to 7 inches. So you can go ahead and score at 7 so you know where you're stopping. Okay? So we're going to go 1/2, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, so it's not 3.5, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Okay? So we've got our score lines. I want you to come in here and you're going to write 1, 1, X. Okay? 2, 2, X. 1, 1, X. 2, 2, X. 1, 1. Okay? The 1s are going to be your taller hinge. The 2s are going to be your short hinge. So what we're going to do, because we've got our 1 inch line in here, I'm going to come in here on the score line for the 2. I'm going to cut up to that 1 inch line. Okay, on both sides. And then I'm going to cut out along that line. Okay. I'm going to do that on our second one as well. Okay. You're going to do the same thing on the other end. And what's cool about this is really you could do this with just about any size you wanted to go. So if you wanted to stagger it where you had one of these shorter pages that stayed at the top and one at the bottom, then you would go up 2 inches and go down 2 inches. I'm keeping them centered just to keep this a little more simple, just because this is different. Okay. All right, so then just double check again. And we should be just at 4.5 inches. I'm actually just a hair under, which is fine. Okay, so now we're going to turn this over just like you would normally do, and we're going to assemble our hinge. Where's my... Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to fold and burnish, and if you want to, you can go ahead and erase those pencil marks that are there. They're going to get covered when we put our pages on our hinges, so it's not really going to matter, but if you're at all worried, you can go ahead and erase those because we're done with that pencil mark. Okay, fold and burnish. Glue in here, burnish that down. Okay, we're going to do our next hinge. This is our short hinge. Okay. Okay. Skip that. We're going to go to our next one. And our next small one. Okay. Maybe. Okay, and our last one. Nothing wants to stick for me now. Okay. And then I am just going to start working my hinges. Especially if you're using artisan cardstock, you cannot overdo this. This stuff will take the abuse. So this album is set up specifically to hold 4x6 pictures. And this kind of came about, I came up with this when I was teaching at the St. Louis retreat. The first day we had lunch, my friend and I had lunch with a couple of the ladies that were there, and Sandy Sherman said something about doing, you know, odd size photo mats, that she wants an album that just has 4x6. So this is what we're doing. It's like I haven't done one for a long time. I don't think I've done one that was just 4x6. So, all right, so we have, at the end, you have this little tail piece, okay? This is going to fold back, and that's what's going to help with the structure of your hinge, so that where you've got these pieces you cut out, you're not weakening anything because we've got another layer on this back side. Now, to put that layer down, you could put score tape along each of these and then add glue, which is, I think, how we're going to do that, just because then it goes together a little bit faster. You can do this with just glue. If I find the end of my score tape, that would be incredibly helpful. But it's up to you. Everything flat. I'm just going to burnish my score tape down from this back side. Okay. And again, just going to keep everything flat for a minute here. Oops. Okay, so then I am going to go ahead and just get some glue on the spaces next to the score tape. You can put it on top of your score tape, but then you run the risk of it making the score tape wet and the score tape pulling up. Which, the way we're doing this, probably not too much of an issue, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're using both. Okay, so now we're gonna burnish back the other way one last time. And after you fold this, you may get a little bit of resistance from this end. It's fine. Just make the paper do what you want it to do. Okay. So now, that is your hinge with 3 tall hinges, 2 short ones. So this is going to go in our book right here. If you wanted to mat underneath this, and I do have part of this that you're actually going to see, go ahead and do that now. I don't think I am. I think I'm just going to leave it the brown. So I'm not going to mat underneath that. I'm just going to get this glued down. And I am just going to use glue on this because it won't grab quite as fast, and that gives me a minute. Well, not a minute, probably about 10 seconds extra to try and center it up. And if you're worried about getting them centered, you can always use your ruler, make yourself some lines or some marks just to help you get it centered in there where you want it. Okay, and I am just going to burnish in between my hinges. Clean up a little bit of glue here. And there's our hinge in our book. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on our page bases. Okay, so your pages. I've done 3 of them already just to make sure that what I'm going to explain to you is actually going to work the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to give you the measurements. You need 3 pieces that are 7.5 by 4.5. You're going to score those at 1/2 inch with the 7.5 on the top. Turn it all the way around, 1/2 inch again. You need 3 of those. The shorter pages, you need 2 that are 5 by 7. I score it 1/2 inch, turn, and 1/2 inch. Okay. To finish building the page bases, you need 5 that are 4.5 by 6.5. So these are going to go on with these. So let's start with our 5 by 7. So you've scored it at 1/2 inch on 2 sides. First thing we need to do is come in here and miter our outside corners. Okay. And then just like when we build pockets, we're going to come in and cut across that corner. Okay. Now, I am going to fold and burnish both of these tabs. And then I'm going to attach our piece to the bottom. Okay. What I should have done before I did that, and thankfully I'm okay, before you start gluing, hold it together and make sure you don't have anything hanging off the top or the sides. And if you do, you may need to trim that other piece, the unscored piece, you may need to trim that down depending on how, oh, I didn't mean to do that yet. No, not yet. No glue yet. Not for a second. That was silly. All right. So before you glue that tab down, we're going to come in here on our little short hinge. Okay, so here's our first one. I'm going to just slide this straight up onto that hinge. I am going to leave a tiny gap between the base of the hinge and the base of this page, just to make sure it's going to turn right. Okay, what I'm going to do is put glue on one side. I'll line this up. And put it down. Okay. So then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to do the glue on the tab. And I'm going to do glue on my hinge down here as well. And then all I have to do is fold this over and that over. And then burnish it down. Okay, and there's your other page. Okay, so for the other page style, for the tall page, got 1/2 inch on each end. And quite honestly, the easier way to do this would be to do these like this so that your opening is at the top. So if you want your opening at the top, instead of this being 7.5 by 4.5, it would be 7. That would be 5 by 7 again. Good Lord, I'm losing my mind. No. Yes. Yes, it would be. So it'd be the same. You would just attach it differently as far as instead of gluing the long tab first, you'd glue the short tab first. So I decided to get all, you know, fancy and alternate where my opening was, because of course I did. Okay, so we're going to miter our corners before we go to glue this down. We're just going to put them together, make sure it lines up the way we want it to line up. We don't have anything hanging over, and then we can go ahead and glue this onto our tabs. Or not. Good heavens. Okay. And to our other tab. Okay. So now this will just slide down onto our hinge. Except my hinge is just a hair. No, this one's okay. No, it's not. It's trying to push that out. And this is, I know, late in the game. I will try to put a note. You can always make your hinge just a hair short of the measurement so that you know for sure pages are going to slide down. Mine is off ever so slightly. I don't want to tear the whole thing apart, so I am just going to miter my hinge corners just ever so slightly to make sure this is going to go down. And that was just oversight on my part. I didn't double check it, because occasionally, you know, it's been known to happen like that. Okay, maybe, there we go. No, why does it keep trying to pull that one out? we're going to turn it over. There we go. Okay. So we know what goes on. I'm going to get my glue. I'm going to live dangerously, and I'm going to do it on both sides. And then I'm going to slide this on like so. And of course now, because there's glue, it doesn't want to go the way it's supposed to. There we go. And then I'm going to just make sure I've got just that tiny, tiny gap between the edge of that and the base of my spine, or my hinge. And then I'm going to burnish it down. And I'm going to go through and burnish all of my pages down. Alright, and there you go. There's all 5 of your pages. They are alternating. The long ones, their tag openings at the top. The tall ones, their tag opening is on the side. And all we need to do now is just add some little flaps and things in here and our front and inside covers. Alright, so let's start on the inside of the book. So first off, I've got inserts. So for the long pockets, our short inserts are going to be 5 3/4 by 4 3/4. So you're going to have just a little bit that's going to stick out the top, because all we're going to do to mat these is most likely just do a strip of pattern paper along this little part that's going to stick up on both sides. Okay, so you got 2 of those, 4 3/4 by 5 3/4. Our tall insert is going to be 6 1/4 by 4 1/2. So that's going to slide in there just like that. Same thing, we've got just excuse me, dry throat today, tiny bit sticking out. I'm going to go ahead and set those in there just so that they're there and we do not forget them. I haven't done inserts on anything in a very long time. Okay, let me grab, because we are going to score and put these in the book as we go. There is not a whole lot going on the inside. Well, it's not a whole lot complicated going on the inside, so this should actually go together fairly quickly. Okay, so front inside cover. We have a flap that's going to come down that is 4 by 6 5/8. We have a flap that's going to come up from the bottom that is 7 5/8 by 6 5/8. And then we've got 3 inside flaps that are 6 1/2 by 7. Okay, so for the flap that comes from the top with the 4-inch side at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1 inch. For the piece that comes from the bottom with the 7 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1 inch. Excuse me, good Lord. For our 3 little pages that go inside with the 7-inch at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score at 1/2. The reason for the difference is the 1 inch is going to help those 2 flaps that hold this closed lay a little bit flatter. Okay. Grab my scissors. Okay, so we are just going to miter our flaps. Well, our top and bottom flap. Our little pages that flip to the side, we're not going to do that with. For our little pages that flip to the side, we are going to fold and burnish. And then we are going to stack these. Okay. So I'm going to grab my clips. I'm going to use my scoreboard to help myself get this lined up so everything's even. And then I'm going to take my glue, or not. Where'd my pen go? There. For crying out loud. Where'd it go? Well, this is fun. Bear with me 1 second. I gotta figure out where my extra pens are. Oh, they're right in front of me. Okay. As soon as I sweep my floor later, I will find that other pen. I know how this goes. All right. So I'm gonna stack them up. You're gonna fan it out. Okay. And then we're just going to pinch together. Again, if you made my giant tag album that I uploaded a couple of days ago, if you made my National Scrapbook Day wallet, same basic principle. Okay, I'm gonna set those aside for a minute to dry. I'm gonna grab our book, and I'm gonna put my bottom flap in first. Something has happened to my camera, and I'm not sure if my son has messed with it, but it doesn't seem like it's out as far as it used to be. That's a little bit better. Weird. Okay, so this one is going to flip to the bottom. Get my glue on there, and we're just going to center this up on, actually we're not going to center this, we're going to put this all the way to the outside edge. Okay, I'm going to turn it around, I'm going to fold and burnish our top flap and do the same thing with that one. All the way to the top, all the way to the outside edge. Okay. Then we're going to take our little page assembly here. We're going to center that between the two flaps all the way to this outside edge. And to make sure it's on the outside, I'm going to turn it again. So I can see where I need to center it. All right, so then this will just fold up and down, and you can do a tie closure here or a magnet. I think I'm actually going to do a magnet with that, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on so that I don't forget it, because I am known to matting and then go, oh shoot, there was supposed to be a magnet there. I think everybody does that. It's not just me. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself. So, okay. Get the back off of that. And there you go. There is our first little section. Okay. So, page 1, we have 2 flaps. These flaps are 4.5 by 7. With the 7-inch side at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. I'm going to stack these in miter. And then I'm going to fold and burnish. And we have one flap that's going to go this way, and the other flap's going to close on top of it. So when you cut stuff like this, just to make sure it doesn't overhang on your page, the measurement that I give you is, 4.5 by 7. I always cut just a hair under whatever the measurement should be. That way, you're going to be sure that when you go to do this, you're not having pieces that are too long that are hanging off the edge, hanging off, you know, top or bottom, whatever it may be. Okay. So there is that one. See, right there, I didn't cut. No, that's not good. I'm having an issue lately getting stuff to actually stick where I want it to stick. I don't know what my deal is. Okay. So as you can see, that top flap, or this flap that I intended to go underneath, is kind of, oh no, it's fine. That was my problem. My thing moved. Haha, we're good. Okay. What is this? I think that's a scrap. Okay. No, it's not. It's my insert for this page. That's what's, I'm like, something's weird. Okay, so this one, a little bit, so I could have it go down and then up, or I can take and just trim off a tiny bit on that one, which is probably, I'm sorry, on this one, which is probably what I'll end up doing. Okay. So there's your page 1 front. Page 2 front. So we have a little tiny tuck spot. That is not the right size. This should be 4.5, not 6.5. Okay, so 4.5 by 1/2. Oh, it's because this is not the right page one. Aha, that's what's my problem. This goes on a different one. So they got mixed up. There it is. Okay, same basic idea. We have a little tuck spot that's going to go along the bottom that is 4.5 by 1/2. And then we have a little belly band that is 5.5 by 1. So with the 5.5 at the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch on each end. Okay. I am going to put this belly band fairly high up. I'm going to miter it just a tiny bit. Okay. Fill those in, and I'm going to come in here and again see, I don't know what my deal is. Why is this too wide? I cannot measure today, I'm telling you. It's a sickness. Good Lord. Not my day, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's try that. Just as a word of caution, just because I don't do it as often as I should, and it's incredibly helpful. Measure, like fold your ends in, hold it where it needs to go, and make sure it lines up the way you want it to. Saves yourself a lot of trouble. So this little tiny tuck spot is just going to go down here at the very bottom. We're just going to put a tiny line of glue along the bottom here. And that's just basically so that whatever photo mats we put under that belly band, they're not going to fall out of your book. They're going to catch on this little lip. Okay. Page 2 front. You have 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 5. With the 5 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. What, Nick?
The last tiny piece of my pizza.
Well, we're going to have dinner here in a little bit.
It's a little.
Yeah, it's been in the fridge too long. I don't think you should be eating it today. Okay?
Oh, he's trying it?
No. Get your hand off that. No. Go.
I was up there watching my race with Daddy.
Okay, so we're going to fold and burnish after we've mitered our corners. So these are going to go side to side like so. and they're going to overlap. Okay. And again, this is another one of these places you could do a ribbon, or you could do, no, or you can do a magnet again. This one, I think I am actually going to do a tie. So I want to put one side of my tie over here, and I think I'm going to use some of my twine that I had left from the St. Louis retreat. So I'm going to center this up roughly and put a piece of score tape. I'm going to put down my little piece of string. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. What I am going to do, because that is kind of small, I'm going to put that backing back over that just so that, actually no I'm not, because this goes down on top of it. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to put something back over that so that it doesn't stick where it's not supposed to stick. Okay, so the other piece will go on this flap on the top because I'll tie it about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that one over. The back side of page 2, we just have a pocket. So this is 2 by 7.5. I don't know why I just put that back on there. So you're going to score at 1/2 inch, turn 1/2 inch, and turn 1/2 inch. We're going to go ahead, miter the top corners of the pocket, and then we're going to cut all the way across on the bottom. This is going to reduce the bulk of the pocket because when this side and the bottom fold in, they're not really going to overlap like they would if you were to just slightly trim those corners. Okay. For pockets, I like to put the bottom tab onto the book first. Like so. And then I'll get my side tabs. Okay. There you go there. Well, maybe. That doesn't want to stick, so we're going to flip it this side. Seems to not want to stick either, of course, because why would it? Okay. Okay. All right. The front of page 3, we are going to do a small waterfall. So this, you need 3 pieces that are 4 3/4 by 4 1/4. With the 4 3/4 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. And again, like I said, very, very easy. We are just going to fold and burnish. I do fold towards the bumpy side after you score. With Artisan, honestly, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to turn this upside down so I can get this lined up the way I want it. And we are just going to center that on that page at the top. Okay. And then put our other two flaps down. Okay, and there's that. Flip that over. Gus. Sorry, cat's in here getting into stuff. All right. So we've got another little tuck spot on this one. Is this right? Yes, it is. I know what I'm doing here. Okay. So this one is 1 inch by 5.5. Score this at 1/2 inch on each end with the 5.5 at the top. And we have a flap that is 4.5 by 7. The 7 at the top we're going to score at 1/2 inch. That cannot be right. Drop the tuck spot. I think that was my original plan and it changed. I think this just has the one flip that goes up. That's exactly what it is. Sorry about that. So we're going to go ahead and miter those corners. I'll turn my book upside down so I can see where I'm lining this up. And line it up at the top. And there we go. All right. So, front of page 4, we're doing flaps like we did on page 1, only this time they're going to go side to side. So you need 2 pieces, 4.5 by 7. We're going to score each of these at at 1/2 inch with the 7-inch side at the top. Flip that over, burnish that down. Turn the book sideways so I can see what I'm doing. Put this one down. And once you get these matted, they should stay down without a magnet or anything like that, but you absolutely could add a magnet if you wanted to, or a tie or something like that. Sorry, I can't tell where I'm putting this down at. Okay, so that one just closes up like so. Back side of page 4, this is the one I had in the wrong place. Little tuck spot at the bottom, belly band higher up. So the little tuck spot is 6.5 by 1/2. The belly band is going to be 1 inch by 7.5. And we're going to do this just like we did the one on the other page that went the other direction. So I'm going to take my little tuck piece. I'm just going to do a very thin line of glue at the bottom. We don't want to seal that off completely. We're just going to line this up on the bottom of our page. I'm going to miter the edges of the belly band. Alright, and then we're going to put that down about 1 inch or so from the top. And that'll just help keep any photo mats or pictures that you put in there from falling out. Okay, on the home stretch here, front of page 5, we are just going to do a side load pocket. It's up to you which side you want to put it on. 7.5 by 2. Score it 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch. Sorry, I had a temporary moment there where I was like, wait a minute, how did I do this? You're going to cut your corners off, miter the tops of the pocket, and then we're going to fold and burnish. Okay, and I think I'm going to put it to this side so that stuff's not falling off this other side. I'm going to turn that sideways. Okay. All right. Maybe if it wants to stay down this time. There we go. All right. We're on the home stretch here. So for the very back, we have a piece that is 6.5 by 9 with the 9 inch at the top of the scoreboard. Scored it 1/2 inch. And then we want to score this at, sorry, my math's not coming to me at the moment. We want to score this at 5 3/4, I think. No, that's not right. 4 3/4. I'm sorry. 4 3/4, not 5 3/4. 4 3/4. Okay. We're in a miter. Fold and burnish. And then it's up to you if you want this to fold in so that when somebody opens the page it then folds out, or if you want to do it this way where it's more, you know, this way and then the other direction, which is the way I think I'm going to do it. So the way I'm going to do it, it should be folded like this. So you've got mountain, valley. Okay. And I'm going to put it on this outside edge, going that direction. Okay. All right. We are on our last little page. So for the back inside, we're going to do a pocket with a flap that's going to come down over the top. The pocket is going to be 7 5/8 by 4.5. Starting with 7 5/8 at the top, we're going to score 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch again. Okay, we're going to cut that corner off on the bottom and then miter the top corner of our pocket. Move that because I forgot we got to score the other one. So the other piece, the flap, is going to be 6 5/8 by 6 5/8. So it doesn't matter which side you score it on, but you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. And then again, miter and miter. So you can put either one of them down first where they don't have anything that needs to overlap in a certain sequence, you'll be just fine. Fold and burnish the sides of my pocket and the bottom. All right, so we're going to start with our bottom tab again, just like we've done with the other pockets. I'm just going to center it on here. And this one I do actually want to mat underneath the pocket so that it comes out the sides. So I'm not going to attach the sides yet, but we can go ahead and put our flap that comes down over the top on here. That won't hurt a thing. So I'm going to fold and burnish. My glue on there, and I'm working upside down so that I can line everything up the way I want it. All right, and there you go. And on that one, I'm actually going to use a magnet to hold this one closed as well. So let's go ahead and get our magnet on there so that I do not forget. Alright, so that's it. Everything is in your book. All you got to do now, mat and decorate. So I'm going to get to that. And you'll see that, of course, in the walkthrough. So as always, if you end up following along on this project and making your own version, by all means, please share it at Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations on Facebook and also on my Facebook page, Scrapping Under the Influence. Thanks!